Welcome back, noble heroes. We return to our characters in a intense meeting where Dom is about to reveal some information about himself that he has kept hidden for many years. We return to our characters, but first, let me give you our pledge. We here at the Homebrew channel reserve the right to be horrible, crass, and crude when the story calls for it, but also to be delightful, sweet, and tug on your heartstrings. And remember, do try this at home. We return back to your meeting room in the school, the Zaratan, where Dom is hesitantly speaking about his experience. In my youth, I was a foolhardy, stupid, and reckless man. I made some very bad decisions that haunt me to this day. One of those decisions was that I was a member of Satan's hand. You're going to see Jania sort of like, oh. Bali also clearly surprised. What is the reaction from Isaac?
Isaac already knew this, didn't he? No.
He told you that he had a dark past.
Yeah, okay. Does the party know that about me yet? I can't remember. No? Okay.
It's time. It's time.
Technically, you were like an outside consultant. You never actually joined Satan's Hand.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
How much did you tell Cassian is the question?
He admitted to some wrongdoings. I don't think he told Cassian about that either. Isaac is going to keep a straight face. Dom is saying something important. He kind of want to let the attention rest on him.
What about Juniper?
June's eyebrow twitches for a moment, but she becomes serious and focuses in on him.
Yuffie.
It's calm and kind of encouraging him to speak.
I was what is called a ferryman. I was there in large population centers to assure that they had a way to get in and out without being seen. I often dealt with some of the more important individuals within the hand, including Dambleth. It was a terrible mistake. One that I only realized after I committed an act so vile that I had to leave. I escaped to my brother, Ronan Ironhand. Kept me safe for many years. But I know that this will pose risks to the group as a whole. Especially since at this point I am sure that Dambleth has at least recognized who I am. However, I do know at least what at the time were the tricks of the trade for Satan's Hand, going throughout the world. Some of their old hideouts, some of which I know are abandoned now, but at least I know how they built them. Perhaps something that I know might give us a leg up, since we seem to be running into them quite often.
To be fair, I think Satan's hand already wants all of us dead, so I don't think you pose a greater risk to the company.
Quite the contrary. I think your knowledge could be very useful, Dom.
I hope that is the case, he says.
When was the last time you had dealings with the group?
With Satan's hand? Bridgewalk.
That was the last time you worked for them?
No. Perhaps 50 years ago.
And what dealings did you have in Bridgewalk?
I thought that perhaps our encounter with Pitt, I thought that perhaps Pitt might be working with Satan's hand. So I contacted a member of Satan's hand, a man called the Clockmaker.
Have you ever heard of him?
No, but Isaac has. He's a frontman. He owns a legitimate business. It's one of the ways that they wash their money. He owns an antique shop. Sells clocks as well. I had an encounter with him. One in which I was fairly certain that I was poisoned. But turns out that I had actually managed to poison him. Let's just say I came prepared for the fight. He describes that the Clockmaker has a steady routine, a wizardly man, a human, sort of thin of face and like a giant hawk nose. That he always has. He brings people into the back when they're members and they show the right signs and they have like tea. He poisoned the tea. But thinking that his dwarven status would help him overcome the little bit of poison that he had, but weaken the man enough to where he'd be able to overcome him if things turned sour. I spoke to him briefly, asking him, suggesting that perhaps I was thinking about rejoining in a means to gain information about Satan's hand. But they had fled at Pitt's coming. Apparently they'd had some warning over the matter, probably the plague. When they fled, they consider Pitt an enemy of Satan's hand, working at cross purposes. His anarchical nature does not fit with their vision of the world. Because of that, he questioned my intentions, and that turned into a fight. I was able to kill him. I also stole something from him, he says, looking towards you.
You hadn't mentioned that, right?
Correct. He is going to take off a chain that he had like kind of hooked into his shirt, and on it there is a little tiny trident, like a jeweled trident at the end of the necklace.
Activate.
There is a great deal of swirling magic of the evocation nature surrounding evocation and enchantment surrounding the trident.
Do I feel any lightning feels?
No, it's
Okay,
not a
just
lightning island.
What does it do?
I don't know. But I do know that had I left it, Satan's hand would have gotten it back.
It's fair.
I've only heard rumors, things from early in my youth, that it was a powerful tool of the sea. I believe at one point it was in the hands of Osire, the Storm Mage.
Have you tried to use it?
I did, during Satan's fight.
And?
I couldn't get it to work. It would not enlarge again once it shrunk down. When I grabbed its handle,
Bless you.
I'm sorry.
it transformed into this. The jewel at the end, not the necklace. I put it on the necklace for ease of transport, he says. But I've had it in my pouch now for many days, through the Doom Ridge, worried I'd lose it. I can't get it to change back, and it doesn't seem to respond to anything, he says.
May I see it?
He will hand it over.
She catches the chain with the tip of her fingers. She doesn't touch it yet. And she pulls out her wand and looks at it more closely. He said it was a evocation and enchantment.
The magic seems to swirl around it like a whirlpool.
Do I sense anything that would go bad if I touched it?
You think that it's in a sort of static state, that it needs some kind of trigger to unlock it.
Can I try and fiddle with it to find it out?
It's a word. You're almost certain of it.
Are there any words or passwords in the hand that you're aware of?
There are plenty, but none of them worked on it.
Trigger.
I am worried about bringing it to awareness. The only rumors that I know of its powers are that it brings a great surge of water.
Have Zarafin or myself ever heard of it? Or her, for that matter?
You have a very vague recollection. I'd say both, like all three of you that you just stated, have a vague recollection of like an item doing that at some point in the past. Yours before Ronan's time, probably. You're thinking Jordor's time. And you vaguely remember Osire possessing some kind of powerful item that he was going to use to like make the most powerful fleet on Earth. Some kind of trident.
But I never actually saw it.
No. Osire's very almost secretive as salt is.
I remember Osire mentioning this before he made it, but I never actually saw it myself.
A surge of water. I wonder what that would do in a landlocked place like Kieran. Zarafin says. Probably nothing to try
good.
out. He nods, a little bit chagrin.
She hands it back.
He takes it. He says, they said in the hand that it was a powerful weapon that would lead to successful missions. But I never heard that much about it, to be honest. Only enough to recognize it when I saw it in its clock. He explains that he used to know the owner of that store before it was taken over by Satan's hand.
Is it a fated item?
No, it's a magic item.
Okay.
He will proceed on like a 10-minute explanation of some of Satan's hand's most basic stuff. They have a earth elemental similar in what he kind of imagines like similar to Clover, that takes on the form of it's like a giant wolf. Has something to do with the stone wolf, he knows, but it's been maybe corrupted. And they bring this wolf around, and it's able to make, like, it can just like touch the ground in a certain area, and like a giant cave system appears. And that's how they make their bases.
Huh.
It's able to sense into the earth, so they don't touch the umbral dark.
That's like super important news to learn.
It's a very well-kept secret, and the only reason that he knows it is because he overheard some of the higher-end people, including Ace, who he is going to say is well over 100 years old. Ace looks the exact same as when Dom was a boy.
Why hasn't he changed?
He says that it is his nature to remain unchanged. That when his fate triggered, he thinks he hardens as he gets older.
Does he die?
He has aged, but the older he gets, the slower he becomes. He said
You're
constantly
thinking it, I can tell.
Of course, you know what I'm thinking of.
He said constantly that he was over 500 years old. But I don't know. He could have been exaggerating. He told many people different things.
She's going to turn to Juniper. You think he counts as an immortal?
Not sure. She looks at Zarafin.
It must be something to do with his innate toughness. If he can't break, then his natural decay of age wouldn't affect him.
So possibly.
If he doesn't break on a very tiny level, then his skin wouldn't flake off. It wouldn't renew itself. His brain would cease to decay, would remain youthful for an extremely long period of time.
Same with all of his organs.
Yes.
He's someone I wouldn't feel bad about killing. If I could.
Yeah, June agrees with you. June just kind of nods.
So he tells you about the wolf. Satan's Hand uses a series of code words which have changed. Like hand signals / handshakes. And like some tattoos to determine that they're members. He doesn't have them anymore. They change like once a year. But if you guys could capture a member of Satan's Hand and like copy their appearance, it would be possible to like, maybe interrogate one of them out of it. They generally choose Ascended for their upper ranks. But there is a whole there's a whole like army of regular dudes who they have basically promised a place in the New World Order to, that they look down on and use as like fodder in like spellcraft and like to do their normal everyday stuff, like clean their bathrooms.
What
and
would
things
you
like
imagine their numbers are? We've never been able to pin down an exact amount.
I've visited perhaps 6 of their bases in my time. Each one of them had roughly 1,000 members. I often heard that there was at least 50 bases around Mythia. There were even rumors that there were bases in the ice, but I think those were fake, he says.
Certainly hope.
Many of the bases were invaded sometime before I joined. There was some battle with creatures of darkness, as though one of their hives attacked several Satan's Hand bases at once.
When? You said before you joined?
Sometime within the last century.
Do they have any spies embedded anywhere?
I know that they would constantly say so. But from the level of intel that I possessed, I imagine that they have people in guard corps mostly, low-level positions. It is difficult with fates as they are to infiltrate certain areas, especially with fated oaths. So they stick to low-level branches of government. Things like your regular cobbler, who might see a whole bunch of people and hear rumors. Or somebody in the guard, who would gain information when it becomes relevant to the populace. As far as I know, the only nobility that they ever successfully affected was the family Kreen, from Zello Kreen, the Silver Daughter, he says.
Did I know about this?
Yeah, she's Zelocrene was a noble member of Aragoth, and her fate was that she could basically touch a very specifically made golem and bring it to life, like Isaac's powers, but infinite. If you were able to make the golem, she could touch it, and it would be under her control.
Her eyes do flick to him when she thinks of that.
Isaac's powers are significantly more varied. The things were extremely expensive to produce, and you know that there was a battle in Drammel about 50-ish years ago where she was captured and put into the Ilium.
I imagine they would value her ability. Surprised you've never been in contact with them.
With who?
Satan's hand.
Prongor rolled a
She is
nat
not
1
smiling.
deception, so he's
Oh,
going to
come on.
he's going to kind of like, what a strange thing to say.
Her eyes immediately flick to him.
Prongor really roll 1.
Yeah, he did.
So could
Nat
all of
1
us read his
deception.
Oh,
face?
come on.
Oh,
Walks
so
no
everyone
roads,
sees
Ray
it.
doesn't read it.
You're going to see like sweat beads begin to immediately form on Prongor's head.
I think several of us are going to look at him and then turn and look at you as one.
I mean, if everyone else is putting it all out there, I worked with Satan's Hand for a time. They didn't like me very much. And by the end of it, they killed me and threw me out. So,
Is that how that came about?
it's quite a thrilling tale, but towards the end, Prongor shoved this thing in my chest as a last-ditch effort to save my life, and it worked. That's why it's in there.
Speaking of those things, this is an aside, but I couldn't help but notice that the guardian that was killed in the temple turned to dust.
I noticed that as well, as our friend says.
If that's what happens when they die,
And why didn't all the ones that we threw in the sea do that?
yeah, why is there still so much that's intact? And if so, how much of it's alive?
Now, when you said all the ones we threw in the sea, who were you talking to when you say that? Zarfan?
That wasn't in general thing, but her head was facing him.
Okay. I'm assuming you're referencing something you and him did a long time ago.
No, you would know about that. It's actually pretty well known, isn't it?
Zarfen has told you
Yeah.
that they threw the guardians in the sea.
Okay,
The,
so
the
I know
world dragons.
that's a historical event I know about. Okay.
Yeah, that was near the beginning when they first cleared the continents.
Do you know anything? I mean, what with the connection you had?
I've controlled a guardian fully once before, well before meeting you all, and by the time it met its end, it also crumbled into dust. If all those ones at the bottom of the ocean are still there, I think they're just dormant, but still very much alive.
That's a horrifying thought.
It's why it's so hard to get a hold of any artifacts belonging to that race, because if you manage to subdue a guardian, it generally just turns to dust, and it's all lost.
June's eyes keep flicking to walks.
Isaac gives you a
Wow.
knowing smile as he sees you do that.
Who did that?
Walks.
Oh.
Goes, wow.
I'm sorry. She says, when you controlled it the first time, did you hear voices?
I did then. I still do now almost any time I try to sleep. I heard them particularly well when we were inside that temple.
You heard voices in the temple.
I did. I think it's... in retrospect, I now understand that I think it's the guardians talking to each other. And I guess because of this, I hear it in my dreams.
What do you mean talking to each other? Zarfen says. Like they're sending to each other? With spells?
I mean, they're guardians. I don't know if they use magic at all. It could be some sort of spell. It could be something else.
What did the Guardian use? It didn't...
It was like a nullification.
Right, but if it wasn't magic, because it nullified magic, so it couldn't be in itself magical.
It was able to suppress fate as well.
Yes.
You can't do that with magic.
It was able to suppress my wishes as well.
What
Which
power
shouldn't be
are they
possible.
running off of, if not magic or fate or wish?
And not darkness either.
When the creature disintegrated, there was no sign of darkness within it. You would think that it would look as a creature of darkness does, with that inky surface. But there is no sign of a darkness within them. And even so, creatures of darkness use fate and magic. There must be a yet undiscovered power. An entire branch of magic, perhaps, that we do not understand.
You're making me feel very uneasy about this thing in my chest right now.
Welcome to the club.
Euphemia, did you try to see within it?
I can't remember.
You did.
Out of
It was
game.
completely blocked to you.
Okay. So she'd say, "Of course I tried. I couldn't get anything. I was completely blocked."
As though there were like a wall, or as though there were nothing there?
It was a wall.
More like there was a wall. Something too powerful for me to overcome.
Well, that's a disturbing thought.
Considering that I was able to look in Yinjasi and Satan, and not that, yeah, it is.
Maybe don't brag about that too much. Those two will get very angry if they find out. Others know.
It won't leave this room.
Though, I'm not sure admirable is the word I would put, but a fascinating feat. Just trying to give you credit, but it's hard.
Well,
I thought guardians were almost entirely extinct. I thought they were gone. Is this saying that if you heard them communicating...
And they must be pretending, laying low for their own reasons, which is an incredibly horrifying thought.
Are you saying that some of the random items that might be laying around could just come alive one day?
Yes, she does actually shudder at that thought.
if all guardian structures are like the one we encountered, merely ancient relics from a past age that have been left to ruin, but with active defenses that would destroy those who gain curiosity of them. Without the right abilities, we would have never entered the temple at all. And if we did have those abilities and we entered the temple with less than we were, we would have died. It's possible that there are many such relics remaining throughout the world that we've nearly not discovered.
It's a disturbing thought.
Before, you said they had names for us. Like they're cataloging.
I did. Ever since acquiring this, they've always referred to me as Puppet Master or Unit something. I can't remember the number.
Isaac, tell me about that one, Master.
It was a new one. They didn't call me that until we just entered that temple.
Unit 76.
76.
And you said they referred to me as Firstborn.
They referred to you as Firstborn, and they had separate monikers for every single one of us.
That was back when we were on the river. You said they come and go, correct?
The voices?
Yes.
Yes.
Sometimes they're stronger and then they fade out as though you're going at a distance.
Let me see that real quick. Make sure there's no other sensitive information.
If you're suggesting it's proximity based, I would assume that's correct.
Don't scroll up.
Don't scroll up. Okay.
So
Does anyone want to know? Does anyone want to know their name?
Yeah.
Uh,
Out of game, sorry, Yuffie wouldn't have said it like that. Yeah, tell me.
I have it right here too.
It's like a personality test.
Euphemia, they called. He seems to be recalling Thief 12457.
So I guess they had a lot of thieves try to come in.
Roland was Duelist 10769. Hero, you were Meek Hero 14. Bali was Scarred 716. Dom was Fisherman 1,600,000.
This appears to be describing fates.
You think so?
They're
No.
monikers that seem to describe fates for the most part,
Who's saying
except for
this?
you and Isaac.
Yeah, Meek Hero. Why would they choose Hero for him?
Bali was called Scarred.
Yes.
Triss is Repairer. Johnny is Vengeful.
How did they...
Red Chaos was known as Forgotten 12.
You're right, they are describing fates. Then why is mine not? Interesting.
They call you Puppet Master, but not Puppet Master 12, Puppet Master, as though there's only one.
Do they?
No, well, yeah, I guess so. They call him Unit 766, but they didn't call the otherwise that.
I believe Unit 76 was the guardian
Heart.
I took this heart from.
That would be my assumption.
Who has since turned to dust, but I don't know where the name Puppet Master comes from. It may just be a reference to my fate, and if there's no number after it, then maybe I'm...
What if it is a reference to you dominating one of their own? You are a puppet master to them.
Now that you mention it, that makes a lot of sense.
Jude likes that thought. Good job. Do it forever.
He says, it is Repairer. It's as though they imagine that fates are
Treating our fates as our identity.
not only that, but they seem to have created categories of fate. As though they were lumping everybody with an ability to steal into one title, thief, and then numbering them, one to whatever the last one born was.
Right.
Because the numbers are so randomized. Fisherman, a very common fate. 1 million?
How would they know?
But Bali, a fate scarred. Very rare fate. 716. Perhaps that is everyone with that fate that has ever been born.
The fact that they got forgotten, and they actually know that amount. She glances at Red.
They can clearly ignore the powers of fate in many ways.
I wonder if they have anything to do with what's happening.
On the ship, did you not say that they had called the river something?
They did.
What did they call it?
How did he know about that?
He told him.
He did.
Yeah, you told Juniper about the Guardian whispers that night.
Yeah, but June didn't tell
Oh, you didn't tell
Zarafan.
Zarafan?
It was a personal thing that he told me. I'm not
Oh, well,
gonna
he
go
just said that
blab.
he told you guys all of the monikers he had heard. So we could assume
I
he
probably
had
would
said
have
the
listed
river.
that one off.
Okay, acceptable. I
Do you
was just
remember
saying,
what they
I
called
did not blab. I want that to be put out there.
He says, it seems as though fates that are... What is their name from me?
Angel 3.
Angel, I think it was 3, isn't it?
It is 3.
Okay. Angel 3.
We have commonly thought that Satan and Mazrian are the only older angels than I. By the state of our beings. There is one other, but she is no longer considered an angel. He says.
I bet you hers would be a unique title then.
I think that they have some holistic categorization that they use to communicate with one another. A title that corresponds to everything and everyone on Mythia. To them, we are as much as prisoners with numbers on them. Defined by what our fates allow us to do, or by unique events that we've caused. Those who have gained their attention seem to have a unique name. Such as you.
June has a uncomfortable look on her face as she's kind of drawing some comparisons in her mind right now. The way they think, in a way, reminds me of the Wishmasters.
How do you reason?
They categorized. They recorded. That was their job.
But they were visitors.
Exactly.
From outside, like we were.
Yes.
So it made sense for them to record. But the Guardians have been here before. They were here when we arrived.
Maybe they are what the Wishmasters are elsewhere.
You believe that they're perhaps opposite sides of the same coin?
Possibly. I mean,
Then
that
why are
would
the
explain
Wishmasters
their
hunted
hatred.
and the Guardians the aggressors?
Because the Wishmasters don't belong here. This is the Guardians' territory, if you will.
Zarafen's going to look very dark at the idea that there's like celestial territory.
I mean,
Like
think
you're
about
caught in a
it.
gang war.
She goes, well, I mean, think about it. The Guardians were here prior to all of us. You all included. They're the original natives.
Then why sit inactive while we dominated the planet?
Maybe they're like us on an even greater scale and don't see time the way we do.
Or maybe they're waiting.
In some kind of torpor, like a vampire.
Yes. Maybe for them, this amount of time is a mere blink.
Or maybe, like the Wishmasters, they've taken a non-intervention pact
Possibly.
to only defend their territory on the world and not to aggress onto any other. To keep their structures, but nothing else.
She shrugs.
I do not think any answers are forthcoming here in this room, unfortunately.
The question is do you think that their nullification powers are what is making fate shudder?
If they were here before, and they are not dead, fate existed when we arrived. he
Yes,
says.
but it's evolved vastly.
But I believe it has evolved with the population.
True, it has gotten stronger as people got stronger. More people here. Fates in the very beginning were much more simple. They were simply a statement. This is. That was. This could be. They weren't the poems, the lines that they are now.
If the Guardians truly wished us gone, they would merely need to get up. If there are as many of them as the dragons have claimed, they could bring a war more devastating than all the darkness. I don't know why they would go through the problem.
I think perhaps you're right, despite my own personal feelings towards Guardians, probably due to my connection to the Wishmasters. From what you're saying, I think you have influenced my thoughts that they are not what is responsible.
In addition, if you heard whispers, what was their posture towards us? You said that they were giving tactical advice, but was it in defense of the structure? Did they wish our deaths?
I've never heard them reference us directly until we entered that room in that temple. And
But you've heard them reference you.
And me.
yes, while traveling. Always ambivalent, just a remark of existence.
Hence your unique titles.
Right. And then during the fights, the communication was purely tactical, aimed towards
There was no
overcoming.
malevolence.
No.
Like an animal defending its territory.
Yes.
I think we triggered whatever defensive mind they had when we entered that temple. But if they were aggressing towards us, as this breaking would suggest, I think they would have brought more to bear. And I think there probably would have been urgency in the need to destroy us.
She will glance out the window. Unfortunately, I believe our time is nearly up. We must go to the kings.
Isaac, I think that you're the only one who can move this mystery forward. It's your ability to hear their voices that gave us at least this information. I don't think anybody in all of history has been able to do that before.
I think you're right. I wonder when the next opportunity we'll have will be to, I don't know, get that close again to a guardian.
Do you still remember everything that you remembered then? I mean, do you still have access to that knowledge?
Yeah, I think Isaac. He saw like a full layout of the temple. He saw what the guardian was capable of.
Okay, let me rephrase that.
Okay.
Does he... Okay, she's going to say it again. So, no, I meant, do you have access to something beyond what we saw there?
Oh.
You mean like a
Like-
communication?
Any other sort of buildings that they have in their language?
I've had visions, haven't I, of an unfamiliar looking.
You gained access to their entire language,
Yeah.
But-
which spoken is just common, but written is not common.
Yeah.
Written, it's totally different.
But you also said, and I'm only putting this out there because June doesn't know, and I remember this conversation. I'm putting out there, he only realizes it when he sees it, correct? So he couldn't, teach somebody away from it, the writing system, right?
Correct, yes.
I think
I mean, Isaac could easily learn the language if he were able to, just stare at a bunch of writing for a long time. But he hasn't yet.
Yes, see that. If you could do that, then I was 100% going to get you to teach it to me.
Yeah.
But that's not a process.
There's no writing on the guardian eye, is there?
No.
Okay.
The guardian eye is much more like a biological item.
Isaac tells you he would need time to study it. Do we have 10 minutes in-game to spare between now and meeting the king?
Probably.
You got to walk all the way over there.
Isaac wants to know if he can go into a room and use this to figure out the keyword for the tridents. If he's given all the knowledge June has of this artifact, would that narrow it down enough for him to learn the keyword?
I'll let you roll on it if you cast it.
Okay. I'm gonna use a spell slot.
Isn't it a ritual?
Mole, baby.
Does it have the ritual at the very top next to the level?
It says divination.
Okay, it's not a ritual. All right. So you use a 5th level spell slot.
Okay.
And cast Legend Lore. So go ahead and roll 1d20, and if you get a 15 or above, you will gain that information.
Any modifiers?
No.
Okay.
No modifier.
Nope.
All right.
Maybe some other day.
Let me see the. Actually, I've got it right here. Never mind.
Okay. Man, my d20 hit the table and just slid. It didn't even roll.
Aw.
It's so frustrating when that happens.
That sucks. I'm sorry.
You could
Okay.
use your inspiration, right?
As
I should have.
you are going to see what you believe to be the Merfolk Empress wielding the trident when you cast the spell. A vision appears before you. She is staring hatefully at a grand ship. She throws the trident into the ship, cracking the hull. The ship becomes undead, a specter ship. Tentacles fly from it, crushing smaller ships as it expands to a vast size. The trident is stuck in the hull for a long time until a young merfolk male takes the trident from its side in a great battle. They wash up ashore together, knocked unconscious. The merfolk is drawn to the trident. It draws him in darkly. But through strong willpower, he stabs it into the beach and leaves it forever. It's found by Jordor Blackhand, who puts it in his treasure trove for many, many years, until it is passed on. It is taken by a greedy-looking, bad-toothed, peg-legged pirate in the dark of night. That man is killed, but not before he hides the item, giving it to Dambleth.
What? Oh.
It is kept with Satan's hand, and you can see it causing great storm surges. That's what you gain from Legend Lore.
Okay. As Isaac's doing this ritual and these visions are kind of coming into his mind, he's reciting them out loud for both you and Dom to hear. And then as it ends, he kind of grimaces and opens his eyes and says, not enough to get whatever the key word is, but we learned something. Any insight, Dom? Any more ideas as to what it could be after hearing that?
I know what that ship is, he says. The Sea Banshee.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
It's basically a ship possessed by the angry spirit of the Empress of the Merfolk, whose husband was slain by the last Queen of Aragoth before Jossia took over. The Trident apparently is one of the causes of the Sea Banshee's malevolence.
So to clarify, did Isaac see that item being used by Dambleth? Like they knew how to use it?
Dambleth appeared to take it. You didn't see Dambleth use it in your visions, but you did see members of Satan's hand, usually like a bunch of wizards, sort of standing around it, like use it to like, and then you saw it draw water onto the earth.
Okay. That's all I wanted to do before we moved on.
Yeah. You definitely saw like at least a village sort of washed away.
Okay.
And I think before we get to the King's meeting, we will go ahead and end there for the time being, Noble Heroes. We will be back with you very soon. Please give us a like and a subscribe. We really appreciate it. And do try this at home. Thank you so much.